Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. stands as an iconic figure in the world of civil rights. Leading the charge in the mid-1950s, King spearheaded a movement aimed at dismantling segregation and confronting prejudice in the United States. His eloquent speeches, now etched in history as some of the 20th century's most memorable, left an indelible mark on the national consciousness. Under his guidance, the civil rights movement ushered in a transformative era, unlocking educational and employment opportunities that had long eluded Black America. In 1983, President Ronald Reagan signed a bill creating a federal holiday to honor King for his commitment to equal rights and justice for all. Observed for the first time on January 20th, 1986, it's called Martin Luther King Jr. Day. In January of 2000, Martin Luther King Jr. Day was officially observed in all 50 U.S. states. But what had he done to deserve such a great honor? This is the story of Martin Luther King Jr. While Martin Luther King Jr.'s name resonates globally, the origins of his name may surprise some. Born as Michael King Jr. on January 15, 1929 in Atlanta, Georgia, his father, Michael King Sr., served as a pastor at the Ebenezer Baptist Church in Atlanta. It was during a trip to Germany that King Sr. encountered the profound legacy of Protestant Reformation leader Martin Luther. So deeply moved was he by this encounter that he decided to alter not only his own name, but also that of his 5-year-old son Michael. And that is how young Michael came to have the name Martin Luther King. Recognized for his exceptional intellect, King earned admission to Morehouse College, a renowned historically Black institution in Atlanta, at the tender age of 15. By the onset of his final year in college, King harbored a deep-seated conviction to uphold the familial tradition of pastoral service, thus opting to pursue a career in ministry. At the age of 19, he attained his bachelor's degree from Morehouse College before embarking on further theological studies at Crozier Theological Seminary in Chester, Pennsylvania. There he completed his Bachelor's of Divinity degree in 1951. Subsequently, King pursued advanced theological studies at Boston University, where he earned his doctorate in systemic theology in 1955. On June 18, 1953, King exchanged vows with Coretta Scott in a picturesque ceremony held on the lawn of her parents' residence in her hometown of Heiberger, Alabama. Their union blossomed into a family of 4 children: Yolanda King, Martin Luther King III, Dexter Scott King, and Bernice King. At the age of 25, in 1954, Dr. King assumed the role of pastor at the Dexter Avenue Baptist Church in Montgomery, Alabama. It was in March of 1955 when the actions of Claudette Colvin, a 15-year-old Black schoolgirl in Montgomery, reverberated across the nation. Refusing to yield her bus seat to a white man, she challenged the Jim Crow laws, which were local ordinances in the southern United States enforcing racial segregation. King served on the committee representing the Birmingham African American community tasked with examining the case. The local chapter of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, or NAACP, briefly deliberated leveraging Colvin's case to contest segregation laws. However, they ultimately opted against it due to Colvin's youth and her pregnancy, fearing that her circumstances would draw excessive negative scrutiny. In a parallel turn of events, 9 months later, on December 1st, 1955, Rosa Parks, a seamstress, was arrested for her refusal to surrender her seat on a city bus. These incidents sparked the Montgomery bus boycott, a campaign initially advocated and organized by E.D. Nixon, president of the Alabama chapter of the NAACP, and subsequently led by Martin Luther King. Lasting for 385 days, the boycott became a pivotal moment in the civil rights movement. King's prominent and outspoken participation in the boycott subjected him to countless death threats, and his residence was targeted by a firebombing. Amidst the campaign, he faced arrest. Ultimately, the boycott culminated in a landmark legal victory with the United States District Court ruling in Browder v. Gale, a case which Colvin served as a plaintiff, effectively abolishing racial segregation on all Montgomery public buses. King's pivotal role in the bus boycott catapulted him into national prominence, solidifying his position as the foremost advocate and spokesperson of the civil rights movement. Since the inception of the Montgomery boycott, King frequently invoked Mahatma Gandhi of India as the guiding light of our technique of nonviolent social change. In 1957, King joined forces with Ralph Abernathy, Fred Shuttlesworth, Joseph Lowery, and other civil rights advocates to establish the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. Their aim was to harness the organizational strength of Black churches in conducting nonviolent protests, with the ultimate goal of achieving civil rights reform. This coalition became a pivotal component of what was known as the Big Five of civil rights organizations, alongside the NAACP, the National Urban League, the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, and the Congress on Racial Equality. By leveraging his connections within the Big Five civil rights organizations and garnering immense support from Black communities nationwide, along with backing from influential well-wishers, King's influence and efficacy surged dramatically. He orchestrated and spearheaded marches advocating for Black voting rights, desegregation, labor rights, and various fundamental civil liberties. August 28, 1963, marked a watershed moment in King's national and international impact with the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom. In front of a gathering of 250,000 individuals, he delivered the iconic "I Have a Dream" speech from the steps of the Lincoln Memorial, reverberating far beyond the event. This speech, alongside numerous others by King, has left an enduring imprint on global rhetoric. In 1964, King received the Nobel Peace Prize in recognition of his tireless advocacy for civil rights and social justice. The majority of the rights for which King orchestrated protests were ultimately codified into law with the passage of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965. King's outspoken opposition to the Vietnam War became a defining aspect of his public image. On April 4, 1967, precisely 1 year before his untimely demise, he delivered a speech titled "Beyond Vietnam" in New York City. In this address, King advocated for an end to the bombing campaigns in Vietnam and urged the United States to pursue a ceasefire to initiate peace negotiations. Additionally, he proposed setting a definitive timeline for the withdrawal of American forces from the conflict. In the end, King's focus shifted toward addressing social and economic injustices within the United States. In early April of 1968, he journeyed to Memphis, Tennessee, to lend his support to a sanitation workers' strike. On the evening of April 3rd, he delivered his renowned "I've Been to the Mountaintop" speech, drawing parallels between the strike and the enduring quest for human freedom. and economic fairness. Employing the New Testament's parable of the Good Samaritan, King emphasized the importance for active engagement and solidarity in addressing these pressing issues. However, King's vision remained unrealized as tragedy struck the following day, April 4th, 1968, when he was fatally shot on the balcony of the Lorraine Motel in Memphis. The perpetrator, James Earl Ray, a petty criminal who had escaped from a maximum security prison a year prior, fired the fatal shot. Ray was apprehended, tried, and convicted of the murder on March 10, 1969, receiving a sentence of 99 years in prison. However, he recanted his confession after 3 days, alleging innocence and claiming to have been framed. Despite some members of the King family and Reverend Jesse Jackson ultimately supporting Ray's quest for a trial, he spent the remainder of his life fruitlessly pursuing legal recourse. The upheaval following King's assassination left numerous Black Americans questioning whether the dream he had articulated so eloquently had perished alongside him. However, in the present day, young people across the globe continue to study Martin Luther King Jr.'s life and enduring legacy, finding resonance in his steadfast pursuit of equality and justice for all.